Agni's life from fire punches is basically pure suffering from start to finish. When he was just a kid, some people broke into his house and killed his parents to use them as food and firewood. But because Agni and his little sister Luna could regenerate, they got it even worse. These people kept them locked up and just repeatedly cut off their arms and legs to eat them, over and over again. Things only got worse from there. After escaping with Luna, they found a village that took them in. For 3 years, Agni let people chop off his arm again and again to feed everyone. He refused to let Luna go through that pain, taking it all on himself. Then one day, a guy named Touma shows up and sets the entire village on fire with flames that never go out. Everyone Agni knew burned to death right in front of him, including Luna. Because Agni can regenerate, he can't die from the flames, but he can still feel every second of the pain. For 8 whole years, his entire body stayed on fire, constantly burning and healing at the same time. He spent the first year just lying on the ground screaming. It took him 3 more years just to stand up. By year 8, he finally learned to control the flames enough to breathe properly. His body became super strong from all that torture, but he's literally burning alive every single second of every day. The psychological damage is just as bad as the physical torture. Agni's mind basically broke from all the trauma. Even though his body grew into an adult, his brain stayed stuck at 15 years old. He starts seeing hallucinations of Luna and his younger self all the time. The only way he can handle the constant pain is by focusing on his hatred for Touma and his desire for revenge. But even that becomes twisted because he's not really sure if he actually hates Touma or if he just convinced himself he does to deal with the pain. When Agni meets a woman named Judah who looks exactly like Luna, things get even more messed up. At first he hates her, then after she loses her memory, he literally grooms her into becoming his ideal version of Luna. He tells her that she's his sister and her name is Luna, basically rewriting her entire identity. His obsession with his dead sister controls everything he does. Whenever someone mentions Touma's name, Agni completely loses control and goes on murderous rampages where he kills everyone around him without even realizing what he's doing. The worst part comes when Agni finally decides to spare Touma's life because killing him isn't what Luna would want. But then he hallucinates Luna telling him to become Fire Punch and kill Touma anyway. He burns his own face and goes completely berserk, returning to murder not just Touma, but also all 17 innocent children Touma was protecting. When he finally snaps out of it and realizes what he did, the guilt destroys him even more. He tries to drown himself but can't even die because of his regeneration. Griffith from Berserk is both the torturer and the tortured. This guy started out as a common-born kid living in poverty, couldn't even afford bread most days. But he had this huge dream of owning his own kingdom, and he'd stare up at the castle from the dirty streets where he lived. He formed a mercenary group called the Band of the Hawk and did whatever it took to make his dream real, even selling his body to a perverted nobleman named Jenin just to get money to keep his soldiers alive. Griffith was a brilliant leader who never lost a battle. He ended a war that had been going on for 100 years and got knighted for it. But among all the thousands of people he commanded, only one person ever made him question his dream, and that was Guts. Griffith genuinely cared about Guts in a way he never cared about anyone else. He risked his life multiple times to save him and completely lost his composure whenever Guts was in danger. When Guts decided to leave the Band of the Hawk to find his own dream, Griffith totally lost it. The night Guts left, Griffith was so messed up emotionally that he made the worst decision of his life. He went to Princess Charlotte and seduced her, which got him arrested for treason. The king, who was secretly obsessed with his own daughter, had Griffith thrown into a torture chamber. For an entire year, Griffith was subjected to some of the most brutal torture imaginable. They cut out his tongue, sliced his tendons so he couldn't move, peeled off his skin, and poured boiling water on him. The only thing keeping him alive during all this pain was thinking about his dream and about Guts. When his old comrades finally rescued him a year later, Griffith was completely destroyed. His body was so wrecked that he couldn't even hold a sword anymore. He couldn't talk, couldn't walk, couldn't do anything. All his dreams were gone, and the first thing he tried to do when he saw Guts was weakly attempt to strangle him. The guy who was once this beautiful, powerful leader was now just a broken shell who needed someone to feed him and change his bandages. He overheard Casca and Guts talking about leaving again, and it pushed him over the edge. Griffith stole a horse carriage and drove it off a cliff into a lake, trying to kill himself by impaling his throat on a tree root, but he was too weak to even do that properly. That's when his Crimson Beherit activated and transported him and all his followers to another dimension for something called the Eclipse. Demonic beings called the God Hand told him he could have his dream back and be reborn as one of them, but only if he sacrificed all of his comrades, every single person who had fought for him and believed in him. In that moment, Griffith looked at a mountain of corpses of everyone who had died, fighting for his dream over the years. He realized that to stop now would mean all those deaths were for nothing, so he said, "I sacrifice," and condemned every member of the Band of the Falcon to be eaten alive by demons. Almost everyone was slaughtered in the most horrible ways possible, while Griffith watched and transformed into a demon called Femto. Then, to completely break Guts, Griffith raped Casca right in front of him while demons held Guts down and and forced him to watch. But after becoming femto, he claims his heart is frozen and he feels nothing. He says he's finally free from human emotions. When he stands among the graves of all the people he sacrificed, he openly admits he feels absolutely nothing. The torture for Griffith is that he had to completely destroy his own humanity to achieve his dream. The person he used to be, the one who cared about his comrades and questioned if he was cruel, is dead. Szayelaporro Granz from Bleach was the 8th Espada in Aizen's army and thought of himself as a genius scientist who had everything figured out. He designed all these crazy abilities and weapons, modified his own followers so he could literally eat them to heal himself, and created this power called Gabriel that let him be reborn from inside someone else's body. He genuinely believed he was a perfect being because he thought he'd achieved immortality. But during his fight with Mayuri Kurotsuchi, Szayelaporro uses his Gabriel ability to resurrect himself by being reborn from Nemu's body. He's all confident and cocky, thinking he's won because he can just keep coming back to life forever. But Mayuri had prepared for exactly this situation. He'd put a drug inside Nemu called the superhuman drug that messes with Szayelaporro's perception of time in the worst way possible. The drug makes Szayelaporro's senses work at superhuman speed while his body stays normal. This means 1 second feels like an entire century to him. He can see Mayuri's sword coming toward his heart, but it's moving so incredibly slow that he experiences every tiny fraction of movement as if it takes 100 years. When Mayuri stabs his hand, the pain lasts for what feels like over 100 years in Szayelaporro's mind. He's completely aware of everything happening. His brain is processing at an insane speed, but his body can't keep up at all. Szayelaporro is stuck there, watching this blade inch closer and closer to his heart for what feels like centuries. He's begging in his mind for death to come quickly, desperate for it to be over, but time just keeps stretching out forever. Every tiny movement of the sword feels like another 100 years of waiting. The guy who thought he was immortal and perfect is now desperately praying for death, and it won't come fast enough. After experiencing what feels like centuries of this psychological torture, the sword finally pierces his heart and he dies. But even death doesn't end his suffering. After he dies, Szayelaporro gets dragged down to hell itself. His appearance changes dramatically when this happens. He loses his left eye and his mask fragments. His left arm becomes nothing but charred black bones, releasing dark smoke, and he gets these chain-like tattoos wrapped around his body. He can grow ram-like horns from his head that actually draw blood when they come out. His whole body is dripping with darkness, and he becomes what's called a jailer of hell. 14 years after his death, Szayelaporro breaks out of hell to confront people from his past life. Even though he's now this twisted demon-like creature with immense power, he's still trapped. He explains to Ichigo that powerful souls like him don't get to rest peacefully after death. Instead, they get sent to hell through a ceremony that the Soul Society performs, thinking they're honoring their dead. The irony is brutal. The good guys have been unknowingly condemning their strongest warriors to eternal torment in hell. Zeref Dragneel from Fairy Tail started out as just a regular kid over 400 years ago. When he was young, dragons attacked and killed his parents and his little brother Natsu. Zeref was so devastated that he went to a magic academy and became obsessed with finding a way to bring his brother back to life. He created all these revolutionary magical systems trying to figure out how to cross the line between life and death. But his research made him break some sacred rules, and a god named Anksarum cursed him with the curse of contradiction. Whenever Zeref values human life and cares about people around him, his magic goes completely out of control and kills everyone nearby. The more he loves life, the more death spreads from his body in waves that just erase everything living around him. All his classmates and teachers at the academy died instantly when he first got cursed. The forest around him loses all its life force. Animals that attack him just drop dead. He can't control it at all when he cares. The really twisted part is that the curse also made him immortal. Zeref can't age and he can't die, which means he's trapped forever with this power that kills anyone he gets close to. For over 400 years, he's been wandering around trying to find a way to die, completely alone because being near people means killing them. He created hundreds of demons hoping one of them would be strong enough to kill him, but none of them worked. Eventually, he managed to bring Natsu back to life as a demon called END, literally creating his brother as a being designed to kill him someday. When Zeref cares about people and values life, his magic kills uncontrollably. But when he stops caring and embraces being cold and ruthless, he gains complete control over his death magic and can use it however he wants. So to protect people, he has to stop loving them. To keep from randomly killing everyone around him, he has to become the evil person that legends say he is. It's a torture that forces him to choose between being himself and being a monster. At one point, Zeref met a girl named Mavis, who had a similar curse. For the first time in forever, he found someone who understood what he was going through. They spent time together and eventually fell in love, which seemed like maybe he could finally be happy. But the moment Zeref realized he loved her, the curse activated and drained almost all of her life force, leaving her in a state between life and death. The one person he could connect with, he destroyed just by loving her. After that, he was so broken that he decided if the world was going to keep rejecting him like this, he would reject the world right back. After 400 years of this torture, Zeref developed a deep hatred for humanity. He watched the same cycles of war, hatred, and conflict repeat over and over again for centuries. He kept hoping people would change, but they never did. Eventually, he decided that the only way to end his suffering and fix the broken world was to get something called Fairy Heart, which would give him the power to use time magic and essentially reset everything. His plan was to go back in time and relive his life, but doing so would destroy the current world and everyone in it. The worst part is that Zeref created Natsu as END specifically to kill him, but then he also made it so that if he dies, Natsu dies too because they're magically linked. So even his escape plan has a built-in tragedy. He spent 400 years waiting for his brother to grow strong enough to kill him, but he also can't let himself die because it would kill Natsu. When he finally fights Natsu and gets hit with an attack powerful enough to kill him, part of him is relieved that it might finally be over, but he also knows it means his brother dies with him. Kamijou Touma from A Certain Magical Index is a 15-year-old kid who has a power in his right hand called Imagine Breaker that can cancel out any supernatural ability, whether it's magic or psychic powers. But this power also cancels out his own good luck, which according to Index means it negates the blessings of God himself. Ever since he was a little kid, Touma was treated like a curse by everyone around him. People called him the god of pestilence because terrible luck seemed to follow him everywhere. A bankrupt guy even tried to stab him once, blaming Touma for his own problems. A TV station illegally filmed him and released footage without his family's permission, trying to make some supernatural show about this cursed kid. His parents had to send him away to Academy City when he was just graduating kindergarten because they couldn't protect him from all the superstitious people who hated him. Imagine being so young and already knowing that your existence makes people's lives worse. Even in Academy City, a place that's supposed to be all about science and logic, Touma's life is just one disaster after another. He's constantly broke, constantly failing classes, constantly getting into dangerous situations he never asked for. His classmates actually celebrate when bad things happen to him because it means the bad luck hits him instead of them. They literally rejoice when they hear Touma forgot his homework because it means the teacher won't be as mad at them. This guy attracts all the misfortune in the area like a magnet, taking the hits so everyone else can be fine. But he can't ignore people in trouble. No matter how much he suffers, no matter how many times he gets hurt, he physically cannot walk away from someone who needs help. He'll throw himself into fights against enemies who are way more powerful than him, people who could kill him easily just because someone needs saving. He doesn't learn any actual fighting techniques or defensive skills. He just runs in with his right hand and raw determination, getting beaten up over and over again. The worst part of Touma's story is that he's already lost his memories once. After saving Index from having her memories erased, Touma got so badly hurt that he lost all his own memories. Everything from his childhood, all his relationships, his entire life up to that point, gone. But instead of telling anyone, he pretended everything was fine. He acted like he still remembered Index, his parents, his friends, everyone, because he didn't want them to feel guilty or sad. For months, maybe even years by now in the series, Touma has been living a complete lie, pretending to remember people and events he has no memory of. Every single day is torture for him because he has to fake recognizing people he doesn't know. When Index bites him for forgetting to feed her, or when his parents talk about his childhood, he has no idea what they're talking about but has to play along. He's terrified that if people find out the truth, they'll blame themselves or treat him differently. So he carries this massive secret alone, never able to truly connect with anyone because the person they think they know doesn't actually exist anymore. The old Touma died, and this new Touma is just pretending to be him. To make things even worse, Touma has a specific type of amnesia related to one girl, Shokuho Misaki. He saved her from an attack in the past, using his own body as a shield, which caused him to not only lose his memories of her, but also gain anterograde amnesia specific to her. This means that even if they meet now and form new memories, he'll forget her again shortly after. She remembers everything they shared, but to him, she's always a stranger. Every time they meet, it's the first time for him, and she has to deal with being forgotten over and over by someone who once meant something to her. If you like this video, turn on the notification bell and subscribe for more.